Hey, man, I freaking loved your movie.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, it was terrific. It reminded me of, like something I would watch as a kid, you know, where I just kind of wished I was in that little gang that was on
Yes, that's what we were going for. Exactly. No, that's what we wanted to achieve. That, and I remember watching these kind of movies, you know, like Goonies, Lucas, Stand By Me, you know, and I feel like they don't make them like this anymore. And so I wanted to make. I think Kodi-Smit McPhee, who plays David, he's like, we want to make a new nostalgia for our generation. And, you know, they don't make a lot of movies that have that kind of feeling of nostalgia built into them. So that was definitely one of our goals.
So I gotta ask you, how did you come up with, like, kids being birders?
Well, it was the film. It's not too far off from my, you know, what kind of kid I was growing up. I was into aquarium fish, actually, but very much have an aspiring nature, either filmmaker or, you know, a marine biologist or something. So I was definitely into science and the natural world as a teenager. And so I made a short film about that called Aquarium, which did really well, got a bunch of awards and played at Sundance, and that sort of was the thing that got some momentum for me as a filmmaker, and people saying, you know, why don't you adapt this into a feature? So we went from fish to birds. You know, it started out just as a logistics thing. We wanted the kids to be going on a road trip and chasing something, and I heard about the Ivory-Billed Woodpecker, which was a real story of a bird that was believed to be extinct, that then someone thought they spotted, and everyone sort of freaked out about it. So switching it to birds kind of was like initially kind of just a practical decision, and then it was the theme that kept on giving. I felt I've become a birder since writing and making the movie, and it does change the way you look at the world. You definitely kind of look up more. You kind of understand that thrill of seeking and searching for something, and the solitude feeling of being alone in the woods, but while also connecting with either a bird or with the people you're birding with, are really amazing experiences that are very accessible to everyone. You don't have to go on a expensive trip somewhere to get into it. So it you know, once I sort of got it, you know, it was a natural fit for me.
And you co-wrote this?
That's right. I co-wrote it with Luke Matheny, who has an interesting story of his own. He was a classmate of mine in grad school at NYU, and he made a short film called Urino when I made my short film Aquarium, and we were sort of in the same festival circuit, and I could tell from his short that he was also into heartfelt and funny and moving. That was, you know, and there weren't a lot of my other friends from NYU were kind of doing edgier, grittier, you know, kind of more quote unquote independent feeling films, so we kind of gravitated towards each other. And Luke, while we were writing the film, made a short of his own called God of Love, which won the Oscar a couple of years ago for Best Live Action Short.
Cool.
And then he gave like an Oscar acceptance speech that you might even remember. He's sort of tall and has a fro, and he was kind of very stunned to win it and saying how he should have gotten a haircut and you know, like Hollywood fell in love with him. So that momentum actually, believe it or not, helped a little bit in terms of, especially once we had Ben Kingsley on board, we could say we had 2 Oscar winners attached to this tiny film. So
right.
that definitely hurt.
I want to ask about Ben Kingsley in a second, but how does the process of you guys writing together work?
I really love writing with a partner. I would highly, for writers up there, I'd highly recommend it, especially if discipline and motivation and self-doubt are issues, which I think it is for almost pretty much every writer I've ever met.
I think that's with everything, not just writing.
Yeah, that's called being a human being, I guess. The way it worked logistically, well, I think one good thing was this was really always my project, so I was always, and I think Luke would agree with this, I was always kind of steering the ship, ultimately. So, it was he was helping me develop this, we knew I was going to direct, and it was based on kind of my life and my story. So it helps in a way to have it to know. And we've written other projects where Luke has been the driving kind of writer, so that helps a little. The way it would work is that we'd outline it together. We'd need to talk through a lot of issues and talk about problems and, come up with solutions and work out the characters. And we'd end up with about a 6 to 8 page outline of the film, with the beats line, all outlined and some dialogue written in. And then the really fun part is, if you take that outline and I say, okay, I'm going to write, I'll write scene 1, you write scene 2, we just need to divvy up the scenes. And we wrote really quickly, so we could write, you can write like 10 or 12 pages a day. So between the two of us, we had our first draft written in like something like 7 days.
Wow.
And it was terrible. And then we spent 2 years rewriting it. But I think the other thing is sometimes it's daunting as a writer to try new things and make changes because you're worried it's going to take so long to do. Where if it's both of you doing it and you can write, you actually do the writing quite fast once you have a good idea, you're willing to try more things. So we got a lot of notes and we wrote a lot of additional scenes and we rewrote a lot of scenes many times and we never got dragged down because we could always if I was sick of trying to get a scene to work, I'd give it to him and vice versa. So it worked out really nicely. We never actually literally wrote the same scene at the same time. I'd write the scene and then I'd give it to him and he would rewrite it. And we tracked changes and it always got better.
I just want to ask you one more writing question. There's a line. Yeah. There's a line in the movie that I just completely thought was hilarious. Timmy throws
the inhaler,
and he says, They look at him because it's the world's worst throw, and he says, "I'm sorry, I'm a birder," and that just completely killed me.
Oh, the person who wrote that line is going to be so pleased, and I'll tell you who it was. It was actually Alex Wolff, the actor. Yeah, that was improvised. So that's nice. Neither Luke and I will be able to hold that over the other one for your favorite line. Yeah. The album's improvised, and the other really funny thing that Alex came up with when they were in the car, and he was seriously, Peter, it's like we're in a wagon. That usually gets a really big laugh, and that was improvised as well. So there was some improvising for sure.
Oh,
I wish we'd had time to do more. Sorry?
No. I just so there was a lot of improvising on the film.
I wouldn't say a lot, but especially at the end of scenes, where I just keep rolling and let them kind of say whatever.
Yeah.
Alex, who played Timmy, was really up for doing more improvising, and it was just a matter of, again, the schedule was so short. We had 20 days to shoot the thing, that I had to make sure we at least covered the script, which I knew would work, and then let them try stuff that may or may not work. It's a bit of a luxury time-wise to allow the actors to improvise, but not a lot, but certainly some of the funniest bits were improvised. For sure.
So let me ask you about the cast. Man, they were terrific. I mean, Ben Kingsley and James LeGros aside, the core cast of the kids were terrific.
Yeah, they were amazing, and I have to give the credit to A.V. Kaufman, who was our casting director. She found all of them. I just loved their dynamic, and they all had such distinct personalities and takes on their characters. Kodi-Smit McPhee, I think is one of the best actors of his generation, and he has that thing, that rare gift of he can be doing nothing. He could be saying nothing, and just with his eyes, you're sort of drawn into what he's thinking, and that's really hard for any actor, and particularly a young one. And then Alex Wolff, as I mentioned, he had a lot of comedic background. He did a TV show on Nickelodeon called The Naked Brothers Band, which was it's big with the tween set. I didn't know much about it,
I've never heard of
but
it.
He had a lot of experience on sets. Katie Chang had just done The Bling Ring, so she had just done an entire feature, and it was fun for her to do this one, I think, because actually I think this character is much closer to her in real life than her character in The Bling Ring. And she brought a kind of headstrong standoffishness, that I think is a little. She's not one to let people in too quickly, and I was really glad that that she brought that, so she wasn't just the cute, crushy girl that doesn't have her own kind of spine or story. And then Michael Chen had done us a great film called Children of Invention, and he could sort of, his audition mainly consisted of me having him kind of imagine himself in increasingly embarrassing and scary scenarios and seeing how he reacted, and I just find the way he kind of gets scared so unique and weird, and it shouldn't be believable, and yet I totally buy it each time what he does. I mean, he was actually the one who probably made me crack up the most on set, just watching his, we sometimes would just have the camera on him on reaction shots, and so he couldn't use them all, but that's one time where I just couldn't stop giggling.
Did you, at any point, I guess, in the audition process, get them all together to see how they would be?
I wish. I don't think we got any of them together, to be totally honest, because Cody's based in L.A., Katie's based in Chicago, and Alex and Michael were in New York, but the casting came so down to the wire, we basically cast them all within a few weeks of shooting the film.
Oh, wow.
So we only had them together for a day before we started shooting, and I took them to Central Park to go birding, but it rained and we didn't see anything. And then they really just bonded on the van ride up to Westchester. The nice thing is that we filmed in Westchester, not in New York City. So it really did feel more like summer camp than a professional New York City film shoot. And it meant everyone, instead of driving back to their own apartments in New York City, they'd all take a van to the Holiday Inn in Westchester, and then they would all hang out in, I think usually it was Alex's bedroom, and watch movies and go over the scenes the next day and bond and come up with their own, their own dynamics really grew. So that was the saving grace, is that, big kids can really bond. If you remember what summer camp was like, it was usually only 3 or 4 weeks, and, these are I'm still really good friends with my friends from summer camp. So especially I feel like at that age, over the summer, with no other distractions, you can really, you can get in pretty deep with each other. So the scene where they're saying goodbye, where David, kisses Ellen at the end, that was the third to last day of shooting, and, they were already starting to tear up, thinking that the shoot was almost over. So that really helped.
Yeah, so you mentioned Ben Kingsley. So how do you guys get him?
He, it was Avie Kaufman got his agent the script. We were actually looking at some other actors that his agent represented, and his agent said Ben Kingsley might consider this sort of thing. I think maybe because he'd just done Hugo, and I think he does like working with, great young actors. And for whatever reason, I could, of course, get him the script, and I'll always remember getting that email from the casting director saying it's looking good, dates permitting, with Sir Ben. I had to read it 8 times. Yeah. I couldn't even believe he read the script, let alone agreed to be in it. I met him and sort of asked him, why did you do this? And he just, he found the script to be very original, and he loved the respect that it gave to young people and allowed the young people to drive the film and not be treated like many adults, and have our voices put on them. And I think he really, he found his character interesting. He never played a birder. So he actually developed a really elaborate backstory about his character, his relationship with his own family, his relationship with David's mother. I learned a lot from watching. I mean, I've never seen an actor at that caliber and how they work. So it was a really amazing experience for me. And James LeGros as well. He's, I think, a different type of actor. I think he's a little more sort of improvisational, immediate, kind of goes off his gut. But he's been doing this a long time, and he knew how to deliver a whole range of different performances within an honesty of his character that I found really inspiring.
Oh, yeah, he's terrific, man. He's been around forever, yeah.
Yeah, he's really he's one of the most underrated. I mean, you hear that all the time, but it's true. I don't know why, people aren't throwing themselves at him all the time, but maybe they are. I don't know. But he always delivers, and he always brings something interesting and, live. He's very, very present and very live on his performance.
Yeah. Like the first day of shooting with Ben Kingsley, are you nervous in your head? You think,
yeah. I'd say scared. Yeah, scared as shit, basically. I mean, I'd met him a few times before the shoot, and I knew, and the last time I'd seen him, he put his hand on my shoulder, and it was at a party, and he said, keep the faith, Rob, we're going to do this together. And that's honestly probably the only reason I did keep the faith. When you have someone like that believing in your project and you know that they're going to stick with it, then I felt like it was going to happen. So I knew he liked the project, but still, I'd never worked with him in the director-actor relationship before, and this is my first feature, and he knew that. But then once we were on set, honestly, as soon as I picked up on how he worked and what he liked and how he liked to work, I realized it was just my job to sort of give him the tools he needed, be they props, be they, context, be they answering his questions about, where we were in the film sort of, tonally, and make sure he knew kind of what film he was in, because obviously, from the script you wouldn't necessarily know tonally if this was a really goofy, silly movie, or if it was, the closest tone I always like to compare it to is sort of Tom McCarthy or Alexander Payne, sort of, small but heartfelt and funny in the way that life is funny, not in the way that necessarily really quirky, offbeat movies are funny sometimes. So that was my role, and then just to give him the space to work and to make sure we could sort of make him feel comfortable and let him do his best work. And also I had to give him the confidence that I knew what I was doing. I'd say that definitely was part of it. And at that point, that was the last week of the shoot, so I was feeling great about kind of understanding how we were making this movie, how we were shooting it and lighting it, and what our plan was, and we stuck with it. And he was impressed, and did great work. And he didn't have to. He doesn't need to prove himself anymore. So the fact that he really put the effort into this, was really inspiring for all of us.
So what are you working on next?
I'm sort of nothing concrete is the short answer. I'm sort of circling around a few projects to direct that I didn't write. None of which are anywhere near greenlit, but I think the success of Birders has gotten my stock up a little bit, so that I'm hoping to get some kind of directing assignments for some projects that sound really interesting and to me. And then I'm actually looking to adapt some books, but I'm sort of in the progress of trying to option a couple right now to adapt my next project. But probably a similar. It won't be miles away. It'll be funny, a little heartbreak, a little awkwardness, and a lot of real people kind of going about their lives. So that's the world I'd like to stay in.
Good. Yeah, man. I don't think there's enough of those, and if there isn't, they're usually bad. So. Yeah,
it's hard. In this movie, it could have gone bad. It's a hard thing to pull off because it's easy to tip into, after school special or sentimentality. So it is a real credit to everyone who worked on the film. From the production designer to hair and makeup and the cinematographer and the sound designer and the actors and me. We all had to be on board to kind of ride that edge. And a movie like Station Agent, not to bring up Tom McCarthy again, I thought did that so amazingly, and movies like that really inspire me. That when you do it well, people really respond. It's really refreshing, and so that's what we're going for.
Yeah, well, yeah, you definitely knocked it out of the park on this one. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
And I will definitely be on the lookout for whatever you do next.